You are listening to Trash Radio, an exclusive product of QueensTrash.com.
Aaron Burr was born at Newark, New Jersey, on the 6th of February, 1756. His father, the Reverend Aaron Burr, was the second president of the College of New Jersey, now Princeton University. His mother was the daughter of Jonathan Edwards, the well-known Calvinist theologian. The son graduated from the College of New Jersey in 1772, and 2 years later began the study of law in the celebrated law school conducted by his brother-in-law, Tappan Reeve, at Litchfield, Connecticut. Soon after the outbreak of the War of Independence in 1775, he joined George Washington's army in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He accompanied Benedict Arnold's expedition into Canada in 1775, and on arriving before Quebec, he disguised himself as a Catholic priest and made a dangerous journey of 120 miles through the British lines to notify Richard Montgomery at Montreal of Arnold's arrival. He served for a time on the staffs of Washington and Israel Putnam in 1776 to 1777, and by his vigilance in the retreat from Long Island, he saved an entire brigade from capture. On becoming lieutenant colonel in July 1777, he assumed the command of a regiment, and during the winter at Valley Forge, guarded the Gulf, a pass commanding the approach to the camp, and necessarily the first point that would be attacked. In the engagement at Monmouth on the 28th of June, 1778, he commanded one of the brigades in Lord Stirling's division. In January 1779, Burr was assigned to the command of the lines of Westchester County, a region between the British post at Kingsbridge and that of the Americans about 15 miles to the north. In this district, there was much turbulence and plundering by the lawless elements of both Whigs and Tories, and by bands of ill-disciplined soldiers from both armies. Burr established a thorough patrol system. Rigorously enforced martial law and quickly restored order. He re-signed from the army in March 1779 on account of ill health, renewed the study of law, was admitted to the bar at Albany in 1782 and began to practice in New York City after its evacuation by the British in the following year. In 1782, he married Theodosia Prevost, the widow of a British Army officer who had died in the West Indies during the War of Independence. They had one child, a daughter, Theodosia, born in 1783, who became widely known for her beauty and accomplishments. Married Joseph Alston of South Carolina in 1801 and was lost at sea in 1813. Burr was a member of the State Assembly from 1784 to 1785. Attorney General of the state from 1789 to 1791. United States Senator from 1791 to 1797, and again as a member of the Assembly from 1798 to 1799, and again from 1800 to 1801. Burr was a member of the State Assembly. Although he was not the founder of Tammany Hall, he began the construction of the political machine upon which the power of that organization is based. In the election of 1800, he was placed on the Democratic-Republican presidential ticket with Thomas Jefferson, and each received the same number of electoral votes. It was well understood that the party intended that Jefferson should be president and Burr vice president, but owing to a defect later remedied in the Constitution, the responsibility for the final choice was thrown upon the House of Representatives. the attempts of a powerful faction among the Federalists to secure the election for Burr failed, partly because of the opposition of Alexander Hamilton, and partly, it would seem, because Burr himself would make no effort to obtain votes in his favor. On Jefferson's election, Burr, of course, became vice president. His fair and judicial manner as president of the Senate, recognized even by his bitterest enemies, helped to foster traditions in regard to that position quite differently from those which have become associated with the speakership of the House of Representatives. Hamilton had opposed Burr's aspiration for the vice presidency in 1792 and had exerted influence through George Washington to prevent his appointment as Brigadier General in 1798. At the time of the threatened war between the United States and France. It was also, in a measure, his efforts which led to Burr's lack of success in the New York gubernatorial campaign of 1804. Moreover, the two had long been rivals at the bar, smarting defeat and angered by Hamilton's criticism. Burr sent the challenge, which resulted in the famous duel at Weehawken, New Jersey, on the 11th of July, 1804, and the death of Hamilton on the following day. After the expiration of his term as vice president, broken in fortune and virtually an exile from New York, where, as in New Jersey, he had been indicted for murder after the duel with Hamilton. Burr visited the Southwest and became involved in the so-called conspiracy which has so puzzled the students of that period. Immediately afterward, he was tried on a charge of misdemeanor and, on a technicality, was again acquitted. He lived abroad from 1808 to 1812, passing most of his time in England, Scotland, Denmark, Sweden, and France. to secure aid in the prosecution of his filibustering schemes, but meeting with numerous rebuffs, being ordered out of England and Napoleon refusing to receive him. In 1812, he returned to New York and spent the remainder of his life in the practice of law. Burr was unscrupulous, insincere, and notoriously immoral, but he was pleasing in his manners, generous to a fault, and was intensely devoted to his wife and daughter. In 1833, he married Eliza B. Jumel, a rich New York widow. The two soon separated. However, owing to Burr having lost much of her fortune in speculation, he died at Port Richmond, Staten Island, New York, on the 14th of September, 1836. Every morning, a boomer wakes up in the condo he bought in Florida after turning his kids' childhood home into a duplex and selling it to a Chinese national who bought it in cash. Gets out of bed, takes 18 statins, drinks 6 Bud Lights, and checks his bank statement to make sure his Social Security check came in. Walks downstairs and unlocks the Audi R8 he bought from the sale of the house. Time to cruise by the high school and honk at the girls. He takes a Cialis in preparation. I got older, but they stay the same age, he says to no one in particular. Sees text from his ex-wife saying she needs him to sign off on the sale of his vacation property to BlackRock. Fuck that bitch. Glad I divorced her for not wanting to go to Cabo San Lucas with me and the boys, he screams. Heart attack. Torpedoes the R8 into a lamppost after swerving to avoid a bum begging at an intersection. Put in hospital. Start racking up bills. Fuck that bitch. Glad I divorced her for not wanting to go to Cabo San Lucas with me and the boys, he screams. Heart attack. Torpedoes the R8 into a lamppost after swerving to avoid a bum begging at an intersection. Put in hospital. Start racking up bills. Nowhere to stay. Gotta sell the condo. Call son for money. Tells him he's struggling with the wife after having to move to New York for work and having their first kid. Call daughter for money. She won't talk to him since he divorced mom. Call other son for money. Won't talk to dad because he spent his college fund on blackjack in Atlantic City. Good for nothing millennials. Gets put up in an old folks' home on his social security checks. Try to call ex-wife to make amends. She doesn't pick up. Busy helping refugees stranded at sea in the Mediterranean. Another heart attack. This is the big one. As his vision narrows, he smashes the nurse call button. He hears a voice. From the doorway, he hears, "Quantrellius, get your ass in here. Faggot old ass cracker done shit itself. He can live with that. Ain't touching this shit till morrow." As the door slams. A Chinese medical student on rotation unceremoniously pulls his organs out and dumps them in a burn bag. His kids have to pay extra because the crematorium said dad had too much fat and gummed up the chamber. No, I will not allow myself to be cucked by the dictionary. If I say actuality, or scientifical, or prevenge, you know exactly what I mean. People who care about proper spelling are losers. The dictionary wasn't invented until 1755. Before that, people just spelled words however they wanted. Tobias Smollett elevated creative misspellings to an art form. Don't be a dictionary cuck.
There is an Anatomy of the Heads album you don't know you love, you have yet to purchase. So when you do, understand you are helping them get one step closer to touring the United States. The DVD will come with bonus footage, including Michael Van Gore filming Jay Heidenreich and the Fisherman scrolling on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge as they both look on in low-key bewilderment. How and why? So many doctors, lawyers, nurses, and even a few higher education teachers are such freaks.
Well, I have finally secured for myself an apartment in Houston, right near everything I could possibly want to be near. And for once, I think I am actually pretty happy. I also feel like my life is starting to move in a positive direction, and I feel pretty good about that too. My homie, some doom dude, helped me move my possessions in and spent the first night in my new apartment. And more or less, it was a wonderful thing to finally be able to do. Although, now, I am starting to see why the thing goes for so cheap. Like I said, it's a wonderful neighborhood in a prime location, and the apartment goes for very little. Well, now I know why. The Chinese. Now, I am not speaking of the Vietnamese families that live in the surrounding units. They are quite nice and considerate. You see, I bought a bunch of bed sheets and some food and so on. And when I went to put the food in the kitchen cabinet, what did I see but a bunch of small, say, a foot tall or so, Chinese people. I can't say for sure, but I think that until I interrupted them with the door swinging open, they were doing some sort of folk dance. It may have been a Morris dance, as they appeared to have bells or similar. But to be honest, I have racked my brain, and I'm pretty sure the Chinese do not Morris dance. Also, they had those wide-brimmed hats your average rice field worker is always portrayed as having, which really makes little sense to me considering they were in my kitchen cabinets, where the sun would not bother them at all. I tried to sort of ask them what the hell they were doing in my fucking kitchen, but they only began chattering excitedly like a bunch of squirrels and running in circles and bumping into each other and falling down as though in a slapstick movie from the 30s. What bothered me about that, other than the blatant surrealism of it, was that I have always thought of the Chinese as a sort of orderly and disciplined race. And I swear to God, these Chinese people were half a step away from doing the curly shuffle. It was pretty unsettling. I sort of got the impression that they were putting on something like a show. So I said, what the hell, and just closed the cabinet. There were a few bumps, then some muffled squeaky noises, and then silence. I didn't bother to check to see if they were dancing again. As it turns out, this was only the beginning. I opened up my new freezer and sure enough, they were there. A handful of them, I think. I didn't count. These ones had little parkas on, but still, those hats as well. And mittens. They looked all cute and cozy. These ones weren't actually dancing, but it looked kinda like they were trying to get some kind of sewing bee happening. And I have not seen a sewing bee, well, ever, let alone being perpetrated by the Chinese. Rather than stumble about, these ones just sort of embarrassedly pretended not to see me. And for some reason, that was even more annoying, because even a cinder block with Down syndrome could have figured out that all parties involved were quite aware of the other's presence. But I was too fed up to play their little pretend not to see the man who is 6 times our size game. So I basically caved in and said, look, you little shits, what the hell are you doing in my apartment? And they didn't really have any answers for that, although one of them coughed nervously and another cleared his throat in a pointed fashion. They were acting kind of like a dinner party, at which someone just mentions fire is wet, the moon is made of cheese, and Bolivia is ran by a bovarky. Except this was not a dinner party. I said nothing of the kind. And these were tiny Chinese people in my fucking freezer. I was half considering just grabbing one and shaking him to show I meant business. But hell, they were trying to sew, and I was pretty sure they had needles. And so, scratching my head, I just sort of closed the freezer door and quietly made a resolution not to put any food there. My thoughts were cut off, though, by the scraping and bumping of even more pygmy Chinese, who appeared to have made a skate park out of my bathtub, which pissed me off not only because I could no longer bathe, but also because they were sporting skater fashions from the 80s, which meant mullets, neon clothes, and multicolored sunglasses. And a lot of them were making that little gesture where you make a fist but stick out your thumb and pinky. Hang 10, I think it means. I didn't bother talking to them. I mean, what was the point, right? And so, a little confused but not determined to be driven out of my apartment, I did the only thing I really could. I called an exterminator. It didn't go well. See, I sort of anticipated that this was one of those things that happens a lot in Houston, and I was rather annoyed to find out that, in fact, it does not. I didn't take an exact transcript of the call, but if memory serves, it went fairly okay-ish, up until the point where he asked me exactly what kind of infestation I had. The Chinese. There was dead silence on the other end of the line, punctuated only by the crackle of phone static. I waited. No answer. I cleared my throat pointedly. Finally, he spoke. Sorry, I think we have a bad line. What was the infestation again? The Chinese. I have an infestation of the Chinese. His voice was flat. Chinese. Yeah, the Chinese. They're roughly a foot tall each, and they keep engaging in curiously marketable behavior. Kind of like if they were treasure trolls or something, only they have those little rice hats instead of wild poofy hair. I know this sounds unorthodox, but I just got home from work and they're... I stopped. He had hung up. I was now more than a little irritated. Not only because the exterminator had refused to believe me, but because a few of them had grabbed my PS1 games and were tossing around in what appeared to be a reenactment of the movie Tron. My copy of Final Fantasy Tactics is now scratched to shit, and when I kicked one of them clear across the room, the other ones flashed big toothy grins and started clapping and stomping their feet. I'm still not sure what that was all about. So that is my current predicament. My apartment is infested with the Chinese, and I'm greatly annoyed by this. At this point, I'm thinking I should have taken the bunker on Cavalcade Street. Needless to say, I have not gotten any work done because they're making all kinds of noise and dragging each other on sleds in and out of my room, which at best makes it impossible to concentrate. It's almost like the kind of shit Lovecraft would put one of his protagonists through, except the payoff comes right away, and they're not creatures from another dimension beyond the stars. They're from China, which I believe is significantly closer. Already once, I have had the thought to pack them up and send them back there, but just when I think I've gotten them all, 2 or 3 more pop out of hiding and start doing that fucked up dance I caught the first bunch in the middle of. As soon as I round those up, either a few more fucking materialize right before my eyes, or some of them manage to escape from the box. So I didn't get much sleep last night. I suppose it might have been nice if the landlord had said something along the lines of, "Oh, by the way, the apartment is simply crawling with comically wee Chinese people who tend to jump and dance and shit all night, and by the way, heaven fucking forbid you let them near your pots and pans, especially if they should have access to a wooden spoon, because Jesus Christ, the racket they make with the drumming and banging. Now here are your keys. Call me if you have any problem." Although, in retrospect, I sort of understand why you didn't mention it. American patriot, was born at West Barnstable, Massachusetts, on the 5th of February, 1725. He was the eldest son of James Otis, fourth in descent from John Otis, a native of Barnstaple, Devon, and one of the first settlers in Hingham, Massachusetts. The elder James Otis was elected to the Provincial General Court in 1758, was its speaker in 1760 to 1762, and was Chief Justice of the Court of Common Pleas from 1764 until 1776. He was a prominent patriot in the colony of Massachusetts. His son graduated at Harvard in 1743, and after studying law in the offices of Jeremiah Gridley, a well-known lawyer with Whig sympathies, rose to great distinction at the bar, practicing first at Plymouth and after 1750 at Boston. In 1760, he published Rudiments of Latin Prosody, a book of authority in its time. He wrote a similar treatise upon Greek prosody, but this was never published. As he said, there was not a font of Greek letters in the country, nor, if there were, a printer who could have set them up. Soon after the accession of King George III to the throne of England in 1760, the British government decided upon a rigid enforcement of the Navigation Acts, which had long been disregarded by the colonists and had been almost wholly evaded during the French and Indian War. The writs of assistance issued in 1755 were about to expire, and it was decided to issue new ones, which would empower custom house officers to search any house for smuggled goods. Though neither the house nor the goods had to be specifically mentioned in the writs, much opposition was aroused in Massachusetts. The legality of the writs was questioned, and the Superior Court consented to hear argument.
Otis held the office of Advocate General at the time, and it was his duty to appear on behalf of the government. He refused, resigned his office, and appeared for the people against the issue of writs. Gridley appearing on the opposite side. The case was argued in the old townhouse of Boston in February 1761, and the chief speech was made by Otis. His plea was fervid in its eloquence and fearless in its assertion of the rights of the colonists, going beyond the question at issue. He dealt with the more fundamental question of the relation between the English in America and the home government, and argued that even if authorized by Act of Parliament, such writs were null and void. The young orator was elected in May of the same year as a representative from Boston to the Massachusetts General Court. To that position, he was reelected nearly every year of the remaining active years of his life, serving there with his father. In 1766, he was chosen Speaker of the House of Representatives, but the choice was negatived. In September 1762, the younger Otis published a vindication of the conduct of the House of Representatives of the province of Massachusetts Bay in defense of the action of that body in sending to the governor a message drafted by Otis rebuking him for asking the assembly to pay for ships he had, with authorization of the council and not of the representatives, sent to protect New England fisheries against French privateers. According to this message, quote, "It would be of little consequence to the people whether they were subject to George or Louis, the King of Great Britain, or the French King. If both were as arbitrary as both would be, if both could levy taxes without Parliament," end quote. He also wrote various state papers addressed to the colonies to enlist them in the common cause, or sent to the government in England to uphold the rights or set forth the grievances of the colonists. His influence at home in controlling and directing the movement of events which led to the War of Independence was universally felt and acknowledged. And abroad, no American was so frequently quoted, denounced, or applauded in Parliament and the English press before 1769 as the recognized head and chief of the rebellious spirit of the New England colonists. In 1765, Massachusetts sent him as one of her representatives to the Stamp Act Congress at New York, which had been called by committee of the Massachusetts General Court, of which he was a member. And here he was a conspicuous figure, serving on the committee which prepared the address sent by that body to the British House of Commons. In 1769, he denounced in the Boston Gazette certain customs commissioners who had charged him with treason. Thereupon, he became involved in an altercation in a public house with Robinson, one of the commissioners. The altercation grew into an affray, and Otis received a sword cut on the head, which is considered to have caused his subsequent insanity. Robinson was mulcted £2,000 in damages, but in view of his having made a written apology, Otis declined to take this sum from him. From 1769, almost continuously until his death, Otis was harmlessly insane, though he had occasional lucid intervals, serving as a volunteer in the Battle of Bunker Hill in 1775 and arguing a case in 1778. He was killed by lightning. It is often said that he expressed a wish that he might die in this way at Andover, Massachusetts, on the 23rd of May, 1783.
Now Now there was a time when
The
there was no money.
Podcaster's
Those
Handbook.
dark ages of primitive man.
Unlocking the power
You see,
of
money
advertising.
wasn't really needed until civilization began.
You know what people actually care about?
A group of cavemen
Themselves.
met one day
Shocking,
to see
right?
if they could
They want to
trade.
know how your products
They
will
brought their
make their
scales
lives
and
better,
tiger skins and-
happier, and more fulfilled. I mean, come on. It's in common sense. Don't all advertisers know this by now? Ha! Turns out we've been living in a fool's paradise. Just take a look around you. Check out the newspapers and magazine ads, TV and radio commercials, even your overflowing email inbox. You'll see what you and I thought was common sense is apparently a rare gem these days. Those old school advertising researchers are probably rolling in their graves, screaming, "Haven't you learned a damn thing? We spent years figuring out how to make your bank accounts grow like Jack's beanstalk. Open your eyes." It's frustrating, folks. The sad truth is, most, yes, and I said most, of today's advertisers still haven't grasped the basics. They haven't learned the fundamental lesson. People don't give a damn about you. They care about themselves first and foremost. That's why I've chosen to write this series, cutting out the unnecessary crap. This guide is tailored to those with limited resources, aiming to help them grow their audience and make money from their podcast. In this particular series, we will cover the following topics. 1. Identifying the problem. We'll take a closer look at why it's so challenging to find the right resources and information in the world of advertising. Why do so many books on advertising exist, yet many people still struggle to define it effectively? 2. Digital versus traditional advertising. We'll explore the fundamental differences between digital and traditional advertising. Understanding these distinctions is crucial in today's digital age. 3. Objectives of advertising. We'll delve into the overall objectives of advertising and specifically focus on the goals of digital advertising. Knowing what you want to achieve is the first step to success. Advertising advantages and limitations of internet advertising. I'm not taking that out. That's staying right there. I don't give a shit. Advantages and limitations of internet advertising. Internet advertising offers unique advantages and limitations compared to traditional methods. We'll highlight the pros and cons to help you make informed decisions. 5. Setting advertising objectives. Establishing clear and obtainable advertising objectives is essential. We'll provide insights and tips on how to set goals that align with your podcast vision. 6. Strategic planning process. A well-thought-out strategic plan can significantly impact the effectiveness of your advertising efforts. We'll guide you through the planning process. Ensure your efforts are strategic and focused. 7. Wrapping it up. We'll conclude the articles by summarizing key takeaways and leaving you with actionable steps to implement in your podcast. Before diving into the world of advertisement, in this case, podcast advertisement, it is important to clearly define the problem and identify our objectives. To approach this intentionally, we need practical definitions and reliable sources that provide a solid foundation in advertising. It's worth noting that some sources may be vague or exist primarily to sell books, lacking genuine expertise and transparent insight. For example, books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kiyosaki, though not specifically about advertising, often offers recycled cliches about money without providing substantial guidance on achieving investment success. The concept of digital advertising poses another challenge. What exactly do we mean by digital advertising? Exploring this question leads us down two distinct paths. Firstly, there are those who turn to platforms like YouTube as a learning tool. However, a significant issue arises within the podcasting and YouTube business realm. Channels, regardless of their size, often resort to using cookie-cutter thumbnails with exaggerated expressions like OMG or surprise face to show how much money they made in a week. These channels aim to generate online circulation and social media shares, often with a network of individuals working behind the scenes to promote each other, secure book deals, and churn out content tailored to fit the 10-minute mark preferred by the YouTube algorithm. On the other hand, there is material that caters specifically to individuals with niche interests. This includes cultural commentators on YouTube, professional or amateur historians, those fascinated by psychology, and individuals curious about technology. It is understandable that these individuals would be interested in the power of advertising and its multifaceted effects. Their motivations vary, ranging from engaging in discussions on media's influence on society, researching the history of cable television, and understanding the intricate mechanisms of media, exploring social relationships between viewers and content creators for scientific purposes, or delving into technology behind website creation, AI, and other tech-related inquiries. The challenge persists, as none of these explanations offer a practical definition of advertisement that proves truly useful. What we truly seek are the answers to the following questions. 1. How can I generate interest in my podcast? 2. What are the objectives and goals of advertisement? How can I ensure a strong connection between my podcast branding and the content, leaving a lasting impression on the listener's mind? How do podcasts generate and make money? Addressing these inquiries will provide us with the necessary insights and understanding to navigate the world of advertising in the context of podcasts, of course. Fundamental differences between digital and traditional advertising and marketing communications. At the onset of the internet revolution,
You're a black cat.
numerous uncertainties loomed.
Like being a cat?
However, it was evident then,
better than
and continues to hold true today,
Come with me.
that the internet did not and should not completely overhaul marketing. Traditional marketing principles and strategies remain indispensable. Nevertheless, the internet presents novel and potent avenues to employ these traditional marketing approaches. In the present day, it is difficult to conceive of an effective marketing plan that does not incorporate the internet and account for mobile marketing. Traditional mass media operates as a one-to-many distribution process, broadcasting a uniform message to a wide audience. In contrast, the internet enables one-to-one marketing, narrowcasting, and target marketing. As technology and software advances, the potential for personalized advertising messages and promotional offers emerge. Initially, the challenge lay in the requirement for sophisticated software and the necessary expertise to develop, program, and implement such initiatives. However, software advancements made the internet more accessible to non-programmers and cost-effective. This shift in software capabilities allowed businesses to transform from mass advertising to more personalized and target marketing. Another distinguishing aspect of the internet is its dual nature, as both a push and pull promotion medium. As a pull medium, consumers retrieve information by typing a web address, pulling content to their computers or devices like cell phones. Simultaneously, it can also function as a push medium, delivering ads or emails directly to a consumer's device. Some advertising strategies encompass both push and pull elements, such as when a consumer views an online ad, then clicks through to access the desired content. Objectives of advertisement. What is included in an advertisement? An advertisement should provide valuable information to the buyer, ensuring that their money is spent in a more satisfactory manner. It should offer improved solutions to their problems, presenting them with compelling options. The advertiser has control over the content of the advertisement, not the medium through which it is conveyed. Without persuasion, advertising loses its effectiveness. An advertisement that fails to influence anyone, either immediately or in the long run, is a waste of money. The primary function of advertising is to boost profitability. In other words, advertising expenses should not escalate disproportionately. Objectives of internet advertising. Internet advertising serves various objectives that can be beneficial for businesses, such as brand building, utilizing the internet to promote products, support distribution channels, enhance public awareness of their companies or offerings. Web traffic generation. Online advertising provides an effective means to drive interested buyers to a website where they can explore more information about the products and services being offered. Lead generation. Through compelling writing and appealing visuals on the website, businesses can convert prospects into qualified leads. How well these leads are followed up on can greatly impact the success of the business. Sales conversions. As prospects become more interested and engaged, businesses can either close sales directly online or guide buyers towards their designated dealer channels, depending on their specific sales strategies. Advantages and limitations of internet advertising.
But how many tools for a tiger skin? And
Advantages.
how many skins for a spear?
Global
The
reach.
aggregation in frustration.
The internet provides the widest coverage of the global market in a short period of time. It offers a diverse range of products and services, allowing consumers to access a wide selection. It also facilitates prompt and cost-effective marketing on a global scale. Consumers can easily request desired products or services through online channels. Direct interaction. Internet marketing allows direct communication between interested individuals and advertisers, eliminating the need for intermediaries or middlemen. This direct interaction promotes transparency and fosters strong connections between the buyer and sellers. Information. The internet is a vast source of information on various products and services. Buyers can access comprehensive details about the products or services they are interested in, enabling them to make well-informed decisions. Instant feedback. Internet marketing enables instant feedback. Advertisers can gauge effectiveness of their messages based on inquiries or orders received. Web advertising campaigns can be easily tracked, providing valuable insights into customer engagement. Round-the-clock services. Internet marketing operates 24/7, allowing the buyer the convenience of accessing products or services whenever they desire. This flexibility caters to the needs and preferences of customers who may have different time zones or schedules. Facilitates attention. Internet users need to pay high attention and concentration when engaging with online content, which creates opportunities for advertisers to capture their target audience focus effectively. Disadvantages. Doubtful medium. The internet has been associated with numerous tales of scams, frauds, and manipulation, leading to a sense of skepticism among buyers. Buyers often approach online transactions with suspicious mindset due to many of these past incidents, that is. Limited usage. Internet penetration in certain regions such as India is still limited. Many buyers are not well versed in the uses of the internet and prefer physical inspection of products before making purchases. This lack of opportunity for physical inspection hinders their interest in utilizing internet marketing. Fear factors. Buyers often hesitate to provide their credit card number or personal details online due to concerns about potential misuse. The fear of unauthorized access or security breaches discourages some individuals from engaging in online transactions. Limited appeal. The internet has a more narrower reach compared to other mass media channels like television or print. Its appeal is primarily limited to a specific class of sophisticated buyers. As a result, internet marketing may not effectively target or engage a broader audience. Setting advertising objectives. The advertising objectives are determined based on the following factors. Message about the product. Providing detailed information about the product is crucial in advertising for both new launches and existing products. In fact, a significant portion of advertising focuses on highlighting product features and benefits. Oriented advertising includes highlighting the specific features and advantages offered by the marketer's product. Advertising can be utilized to inform customers about changing an existing product. For example, if a beverage company acquires another brand and undergoes a brand name change, the advertising message may emphasize new name but same great taste. Message about price. Companies that frequently adjust prices, such as running short-term sales or price markdowns, can utilize advertising to communicate price reductions to the market. Alternatively, advertising can be used to motivate customers to make a purchase before a scheduled price increase. Message about other promotions. Advertising often collaborates with other promotional elements. Special sales promotions like contests may be announced in advertisement. Additionally, advertising can assist in gaining access to new accounts by preceding their attempts to secure appointments with prospective buyers. This can be particularly effective when entering a new market, as advertising helps reduce buyers' uncertainty about a new company. Message about distribution. Advertising can expand channel options by making distributors aware of the marketer's offering. It can also inform customers about locations where they can purchase the product, ensuring they have a convenient access to it. Strategic planning process. 5 steps in the strategic planning process of advertising. Step 1. Selecting the target audience. The first step in strategic planning is to determine the target audience. The selection should align with the brand's marketing objectives. If the marketing strategy aims to expand the category, the focus should be on attracting new users. On the other hand, if the strategy aims to increase usage, the emphasis should be on existing users. In the strategic planning process, 2 questions should be addressed. Where will sales or users come from? And what do we know about the target audience? Where will sales or users come from? At this stage, we need to decide whether our primary focus should be on attracting users or non-users of the brand. While it is desirable to have a broad customer base, it is important to recognize that either targeting trial users or encouraging repeat users will align best with the brand's marketing objectives. The communication strategies will vary significantly depending on which target audience and actions you have chosen. What do we know about the target audience? Once we figure out the right user group, It is important for the advertiser to create a detailed profile of these individuals. Often profiles only focus on basic information like gender, age, and family status, or use general descriptions like being outgoing and interested in cultural activities. However, to effectively communicate our marketing message, we need to go beyond such surface level details. We must also understand the target audience attitudes and behaviors that are relative to our brand's marketing strategies. This means knowing how they currently behave in relation to to your product or service, how they might respond to the campaign, that is the advertising, as it say, and how their thoughts and motivations impact their choices. Step 2. Understanding the target audience decision making. Once the target audience has been selected, the next step is to understand how they make purchases. This understanding is crucial for positively influencing the decision making process and increasing the likelihood of selecting the brand. Step 3. Determining the best positioning. The third step in the strategic planning process is to determine the most effective positioning for the brand. While the basic brand positioning is usually established, the strategic planning process should address the specific communication positioning for the brand. This involves deciding whether to align the brand with the target audience perception of the category it competes in, or it repositions the brand by linking it to another category where it has a strong competitive advantage. Step 4. Developing the communication strategy. In developing the communication strategy, the first task is to establish communication objectives by selecting the desired communication effects. This step involves defining what the marketing communication should convey about the brand to motivate target audience to take the desired action. Create distinctiveness by setting your podcast apart from others. Use various techniques such as unique approach, musical phrases, distinctive voice qualities, or sound effects to give your podcast its own character. Inject your podcast with a sense of compulsion. The initial moments are crucial for capturing or losing the listener's attention, so make them captivating. Direct every word towards motivating listeners to the desired product or service. In the final moments, reiterate the promise, benefits, and ensure the product's name is registered. Encourage listeners to take action promptly, as many commercials overlook this essential step. While much of what I'm talking about may seem obvious, it is important to pause and truly consider our objectives. Let's take a step back and evaluate the goals, strengths, weaknesses of both traditional and digital advertising in plain and simple language. This will provide us with a clear understanding of these advertising methods, enabling us to make well-informed decisions. In essence, it is crucial to recognize that people aren't interested in the size of your staff, office space, or your YouTube subscriber count, fancy equipment, unconventional camera angles, those kinds of things. What truly matters to them is themselves. They care about how products can enhance their lives, bring happiness, and provide fulfillment.
In those dark ages of primitive man.
If there isn't a compelling reason to make a call,
really needed until civilization
or in this case,
began.
subscribe,
A group of
and the advertising lacks branding power, it won't have much of an impact.
Brought their spears and
Merely
tiger
conveying
skins.
the existence of a product is not enough. It's not enough to just tell people, hey, I'm here, subscribe. Why? Give me a reason why. No, it is not obvious. You have an idea and you think that it's self-evident. It is not. You're gonna go out there and advertise your idea, and you put it in front of people and they're gonna go, what is this? I don't understand this. communication even though the internet acts as a one-to-one communication, there's still communication happening, and the message has to be clear. It can't just be subscribe. That's not enough. Why? Why do I have to subscribe? Why should I give my money to you? Alright? It needs to be something that they care about. They, not you. It's not about you. It's not about what microphone you have. It's not about how many viewers you have. It's not about, well, I just have a great idea. That's not enough. It needs a compelling reason. It needs to offer, as we mentioned before, benefits to the user. It needs to offer solutions to things. Even if the podcast is cultural, or you talk about history or whatever, and there's just 1,000,001 history podcasts out there. It's not enough to just say, "Hey, I'm here. We exist." Bottom line, let's wrap this shit up. Simplicity is the key in podcasting. Build your content around one central idea and avoid overwhelming the listener with excessive information. Use familiar words, short phrases, and straightforward sentence structures. Keep your script conversational in tone. Maintain clarity by staying focused on a single train of thought. Avoid these digressions and using active voice in simple sentences. Steer clear of adverbs, cliches, and ambiguous phrases. Remove unnecessary words that don't contribute to the message's impact. Continuously refine your script until it becomes unmistakably clear and concise. Ensure coherence in your sales message by organizing it in a logical sequence from beginning to end. Smoothly transition between ideas using appropriate words and phrases that facilitate easy listening. Establish your rapport with your listeners by speaking to them directly. Adopt a warm and personal tone, as if you were conversating with one or two individuals. Utilize the word "you" frequently to address the audience in a relatable manner. Maintain a pleasant tone throughout your podcast. While it is not necessary to entertain for the sake of it, avoid being dull. Strike a balance between being informative and engaging, as if you were talking to a friend about the product or service. Emphasize believability by presenting the genuine strengths of the product. Avoid exaggerated claims and overstatements that can be easily identified by listeners. Be straightforward and aim to convey a sense of trustworthiness, as if you were a reliable friend providing honest recommendations. Capture interest by avoiding boring content. While products and services may not be inherently fascinating, it's your perspective and approach that can make them interesting. Offer useful information as a reward for listeners' attention.
People speak of therapy as if it's some fail-safe ordeal with a 100% success rate, when it clearly isn't. It's a really strange, childish, and reductive way to see the world. I wonder how many of those people don't have others in their lives they can speak to openly, honestly, and without fear of reprisal. Imagine having to pay someone per hour to do that. Women who see a therapist, who is also a woman, well, she's destined to be unhappy and will have endless jargon that can easily be warped and restructured to keep them walking in circles in the desert, thinking they've crossed the horizon every session. If you feel comfortable enough to spill your guts to a stranger you pay per hour to do that with, then you'll be receptive to the idea of taking pharmaceutical dry ice with side effects that range from egregious to deadly. Besides, most people are honest to their therapist, but not so honest that they get involuntarily hospitalized. Not everyone has homies. A girl is working as a waitress in a new city. Clean break. And sees a guy who got stood up on a blind date. She never tells him why the clean break, why the move. They date, and then the wedding is called off years later. This happens once a week, somewhere in America. For the sake of simplicity, let's at least agree on the following, all right? If a guy has a thing for black women, it's jungle fever. If a guy has a thing for Asian women, it's yellow fever. If a guy has a thing for Indian women, it's curry craving. Is there a term for having a thing for white women? What about Latinas? For the former, all I could come up with is calcium deficiency, white delight, snowburn, Mayo madness, reverse colonialism, racism, and the other white meat. The latter is tricky, as frijole frenzy, guacamole grip, and salsa syndrome only work around Mesoamerica and Mexico. Which is funny, because all Central American food wishes it was Mexican food. But let us continue. Empanada ecstasy, sofrito syndrome, sofrito satisfaction is also acceptable. Tostones temptation, arepa amor, café con leche, a taste for churros, Catholicism, and chile con culo. I forgot to mention, if a guy has a thing for Indian women, masala madness also applies. If she loves Indian men, she's probably ugly.
What's up, ladies and jerks? You like things that don't suck. So for more of the finest garbage this side of Geek Space, come on down to the Trash Radio Patreon. I can't promise that my buttery, trashy voice will stop rearranging things in your living room when you're not home.